The station announced his arrival 3 seconds late, which immediately told him two things. First, the Empire's systems were ancient enough to be offended by improvisation, and second, someone important had adjusted the schedule without bothering to tell the software. He stepped off the transport anyway, because humans had learned long ago that waiting for permission from machines was how you ended up spending your life in corridors. The air hummed. Not audibly, exactly, more like the sensation of standing near something that was thinking very hard. He adjusted the strap of his bag and reminded himself not to wave at anyone unless waved at first. On his last assignment, that had nearly escalated into a ritual challenge. Apparently, in 3 neighboring sectors, a raised hand meant, "I acknowledge you," "I accuse you," or "I volunteer for ceremonial dismemberment." Context mattered, a lot. A line of attendants waited, arranged with geometric devotion. They did not smile. They did not blink in unison, but close enough to make it unsettling. One of them spoke his designation with a precision that suggested it had been practiced, then practiced again, then punished until it was correct. "Welcome to the Imperial Corps." "Thank you," he said, then added, "It's very Corps-why." No one laughed. That was fine. Silence was a kind of laugh here, probably. He was escorted through corridors that seemed to loop not spatially but hierarchically, each threshold marked by a subtle shift in gravity, lighting, or the faint pressure behind the eyes that suggested another jurisdiction. The Empire did not believe in wasting energy on intimidation. It believed in efficiency. If you felt small, that was simply data being delivered accurately. He was here on a temporary mandate, which in imperial terms meant tolerated. Humans were useful in the way irregular shapes were useful. Not elegant, but adaptable. They had a reputation for emotional unpredictability, which the Empire categorized under manageable risk after several centuries of cautious observation and one regrettable poetry exchange program. The Queen was not present. This was made very clear repeatedly, as if her absence itself required enforcement. Her daughter, however, was mentioned with unusual frequency, always accompanied by a pause that suggested no one was entirely sure what to say next. "She is observant," one attendant finally offered. "I get that a lot too," he replied, "usually right before something goes wrong." This earned him a look, not disapproval, calculation. The first meeting was not a meeting at all, but a structured coincidence. He was instructed to wait in a circular chamber designed for reflection, contemplation, or judgment, depending on which side of the Empire you were standing on. He sat, he did not touch anything. The floor shimmered faintly, responding to biometric presence, and for a moment he wondered if it was reading his thoughts. If so, he hoped it enjoyed confusion and mild hunger. A small figure appeared at the edge of the chamber without announcement, as if the room itself had decided to produce a person. She studied him openly, head tilted, eyes fixed with the intensity of someone encountering an unsolved problem. He resisted the urge to wave. "You are not shaped like the others," she said. "Occupational hazard," he replied, "gravity and snacks." She considered this. "You do not speak in protocol." "I'm working on it," he said. "It's a long-term project." That finally earned something close to amusement. Not a smile. Something subtler, like light deciding to behave differently. She stepped closer, curiosity overriding caution in the way children everywhere seemed to share, regardless of planet or crown. "You were not assigned to me," she said. "No," he agreed. "I tend to show up where I'm least expected. It's a skill, not a good one." She circled him once, slow and deliberate as if mapping his existence. He remained very still. He had learned that sudden movements around royalty, especially young royalty, were generally frowned upon unless accompanied by explosions, in which case they were historically significant. "Why are you here?" she asked. He thought about lying. Then about the Empire's data archives. Then about the look in her eyes, sharp and searching and far too young to be burdened with doctrine. "Because someone thought it might help," he said. She nodded, satisfied in the way only children could be when an answer felt true, even if it explained nothing. Somewhere far above them, systems adjusted, probabilities shifted, and a whisper of imbalance entered the Empire's immaculate equations. He had no way of knowing that this was the moment everything began to lean. The first thing he learned was that the Empire scheduled curiosity in 15-minute intervals, and curiosity did not respect that. The second thing he learned was that children everywhere were natural smugglers of chaos, regardless of planetary origin. He was seated in a room that insisted on being a classroom without ever admitting it. Every surface politely pretended not to be listening. The walls adjusted their opacity when he leaned back, as if embarrassed by the posture. A voice informed him that educational engagement would begin shortly and requested that he refrain from introducing non-standard concepts, including but not limited to metaphor, sarcasm, and improvisation. "Those are my top three," he said to the ceiling. "I'm basically a walking violation." The ceiling did not respond, which felt judgmental. She arrived late on purpose. He recognized the tactic instantly. Humans did it too, usually to test boundaries or make an entrance. She slid into the room with the quiet confidence of someone who had never once been told no and believed, genuinely, that the universe was better that way. "You are still here," she said. "I tried leaving," he replied. "The door pretended I didn't exist." "That means it likes you," she said with authority. "Fantastic. I always wanted to be approved by architecture." She climbed onto a seat that adjusted itself a half-second too late, causing a brief but undignified wobble. She stared at it, offended. The seat corrected itself immediately. "Good," she said. "They must be punished early." He laughed before he could stop himself. The sound echoed strangely, like the room had to check a database before deciding whether laughter was allowed. It settled for a polite acoustic compromise. They were supposed to review cultural alignment materials. He knew this because a translucent interface kept drifting into his peripheral vision, presenting bullet points about empire history, familial hierarchy, and emotional containment protocols. He ignored it, so did she. "Tell me something," she said, "not a fact." "That narrows it down," he said. "All right. Did you know humans invented a game where you throw small objects into cups for fun and consider it a bonding ritual?" "That sounds inefficient." "It is," he agreed, "but we bond anyway." She processed this. Bonding without assignment is irrational. "Absolutely," he said. "We excel at it." She leaned forward. "Do you bond with everyone?" "No," he said. "Just the ones who stick around." The interface flickered. Somewhere, an algorithm quietly screamed. They spent the next unsanctioned interval trading questions like contraband. She asked why humans told stories that were not true. He asked why the Empire believed truth had only one acceptable format. She explained that lineage ensured stability. He countered that humans preferred emotional chaos with snacks. She demanded clarification on snacks. At some point, a caretaker attempted to intervene, delivering a reminder about developmental parameters and approved influence thresholds. The child looked at the caretaker with the calm authority of royalty and said, "He is not influencing me. I am studying him." The caretaker retreated immediately. He tried not to look proud. Later, how much later he couldn't say, because time behaved strangely around imperial children, she asked a question that did not appear on any interface. "Why do humans choose parents?" she asked. He paused. That was new, dangerous even. "We don't always," he said carefully. "But when we do, it's usually because someone showed up, again and again." "That is inefficient," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Sure," he said, "but it works." She watched him in silence, light shifting subtly along her skin in patterns that suggested thought, not emotion, though he suspected the Empire made that distinction mostly for comfort. When the session ended, because something somewhere decided it must, she stood, already distracted by the next question forming. "You will return," she said. It was not a request. "I tend to," he said. "I get lost easily." She smiled then, openly, and the room dimmed slightly as if acknowledging a significant event without understanding why. As she left, the interface finally asserted itself, flashing warnings about attachment metrics and deviation probability curves. He dismissed it with a flick of his hand. "Relax," he said, "we're just talking." The system did not believe him, and somewhere deep in the Empire's immaculate structure, a variable began quietly refusing to stay where it was placed. The summons arrived without sound, which was how the Empire preferred its most serious moments. No drama, no warning, just an abrupt certainty that your day had been reorganized by someone with better clearance. The corridor redirected itself while he was walking, gently but firmly, like a polite suggestion that refused to be ignored. He considered resisting out of principle, then remembered how well that usually went for humans in places built entirely on principle. He followed. The chamber did not announce its purpose. It did not need to. The silence was different here, thicker, heavier, as if words had been spoken so often in the past that the air had grown tired of carrying them. He stood where the floor indicated standing was appropriate. The floor always knew. The queen was already there. She did not rise because she did not need to. Presence was not something she adjusted for guests. It existed. Everything else recalibrated around it. She regarded him with eyes that missed nothing and judged little, which somehow felt worse. "You have been a deviation," she said. He nodded. "I get that on my performance reviews, too." A flicker passed through the light patterns along her skin, something like surprise, or perhaps the imperial equivalent of a raised eyebrow. "You treat serious assessments lightly." "I find it keeps them from sitting on my chest," he said. "Also, it annoys the assessments." She studied him for a long moment. Systems hummed. Probability trees rearranged themselves. Somewhere a council member probably felt a sudden headache and did not know why. "My daughter speaks of you," the queen said. "I've been trying to keep it educational," he replied, with limited success. "She laughs," the queen said, "not accusation, observation." "That's on me," he said. "I brought humor into a controlled environment. Rookie mistake." Another pause, longer this time. He became acutely aware of how human he was standing there, too expressive, too breakable, entirely lacking in bioluminescent dignity. "She asked me a question," the queen continued. He waited. Humans had learned patience the hard way. "She asked why I did not choose her." The words settled between them, quiet and devastating in their simplicity. "I didn't know that was an option," he said finally. "It is not," the queen said, "and yet." She rose then, slow and deliberate, the chamber responding to her movement like a respectful audience. When she stood before him, the empire felt very far away, reduced to an abstract concept struggling to remain relevant. "She has observed you," the queen said. "Your inconsistency, your refusal to follow emotional protocol, your habit of remaining." "I'm stubborn," he said, "and I get attached to places with decent lighting." The queen's gaze did not soften, but something beneath it shifted. "She believes these traits are paternal." He blinked once, then again just to be sure the universe hadn't glitched. "I'm wildly unqualified," he said. "I once burned water." "She does not require perfection," the queen said. "She requires presence." That hit harder than any imperial decree. "She has made a request," the queen said quietly. "Not as an heir, not as a subject, as a child." The chamber seemed to lean in. "She wishes you to be her father." The word echoed strangely, as if the language itself had not been designed for it. His mind scrambled for procedure, protocol, a manual, anything that explained how one responded to an interstellar monarchy offering surprise parenthood. "I don't even have a ceremonial outfit," he said weakly. That finally did it. The light along the queen's skin dimmed, then brightened, betraying something dangerously close to amusement. "You would not be given one," she said. "You would be chosen." Silence followed, thick but not hostile. Outside this chamber, an empire held its breath without knowing why. Inside it, a human stood frozen, realizing that the most terrifying force in the galaxy was not power or duty or bloodline, but a child who had learned that love did not require permission. And the queen waited not as a ruler, but as a mother who already knew the cost of the question she had allowed to be asked. The empire did not collapse. It sulked. Councils convened with the enthusiasm of machines asked to process poetry. Laws were cited, amended, cross-referenced, and politely strangled by exceptions no one admitted creating. The official term for what was happening became an unresolved relational anomaly, which was imperial language for we have no idea what to do with this, but we are pretending we do. He was asked to wait while decisions were made. He had been waiting his whole life. This time it felt different. The corridors no longer redirected him. Doors opened when he approached, as if the station had quietly picked a side. The child found him anyway. She always did. "You are thinking too loudly," she said, settling beside him with the casual authority of someone who assumed permanence. "I'm trying to decide if I ruin an empire by accident," he said. "It's a new hobby." She considered this. Empires that can be ruined by accident are poorly built. "That's very comforting," he said. "I'll tell them you said so." She swung her legs, which had recently been declared too important to touch the floor without permission. "They are afraid you will teach me disorder." "I was hoping to start with jokes," he said. "Disorder comes free." When the queen arrived, there were no guards. None were needed. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she watched her daughter lean against him, watched how naturally it happened, how little explanation the universe required. "You have altered her trajectory," the queen said. "So has gravity," he replied. "We don't blame it." "Mostly." A pause, then, "The council cannot approve your role." Fair, he said. I didn't fill out any forms. They also cannot deny it, she continued. The data resists. He blinked. The data. My empire measures everything, the queen said. Except what you have given her. That absence is disruptive. The child looked up at her mother. He stays, she said.